So, since I'm dressed as Captain America tonight, I figured I'd talk about something very American and very common and just about as dear to my heart as Captain America himself, but not nearly so pleasant. So, I think it's something every American should be concerned about. $1 trillion. I know a lot of people, myself included, didn't really know what $1 trillion is. It is a million millions. The U.S. GDP in 2011 was $15 billion. 15 trillion, geez, okay. $15 trillion, but earlier this year, the total U.S. student loan debt reached $1 trillion. So, a lot of that is to blame for more and more of us trying to get college educations. And in pursuit of that funny hat and a piece of paper that says, I am qualified to do something, well, basically, the average graduate in the United States under 30 now has $20,835 in student debt. And a lot of that is to blame on increasing enrollment, but that only plays a part. A lot of it has to do with the rising cost of education in the United States. So public school, up there, you can see it's a lot cheaper than a private education, but the average cost of state education has risen from $6,000 to over $15,000 a year in the last 30 years. So a degree that would have cost you $24,000 in 1980 would cost you $60,000 today, and those are all in 2010 dollars. So let's get back to that $20,835. You could get this truck for that. So the same year that the Federal Reserve in New York was reporting the average debt was that much, Rutgers was saying that the average graduate starting salary was $27,000. So assuming that you're completely average, you are looking at standard payments of 9% of your total income every month towards your student debts, which is a pretty big chunk. I've heard that 10% is supposed to be manageable, and you can reduce your loans to only pay 10%, but that's only the federal loans. They won't do anything for your private debts. So I'm not going to go into detail here, but I'd like to tell you that my student debts after attending a private university for 4 years take up 28% of my monthly income. If I didn't have debts and I just made 28% less, I would qualify for food stamps and Section 8 housing. So there's a fun fact. So we end up in this much trouble quite easily. The total cost of attendance at UMass Amherst next year will be $23,167. Over 4 years, that's about $93,000, assuming that the tuition and fees don't continue to rise at the rate they've been going. If that seems too cheap for you, you could attend Sarah Lawrence College in Bronxville, New York, which according to BusinessInsider.com is the most expensive university. They offer a 5-year bachelor's and master's degree combined in women's history. That'll cost you about $300,000. I'm considering it. I may go back. And so in those trucks that we saw earlier, this is that 5-year degree at Sarah Lawrence University. So that would be a little unmanageable for most people. So we all know that the American dream is, a house, a car, 2.5 kids, flat screen TV, all that. This is also American dream. A lot of young people in America can't achieve that because rather than starting at zero, we're starting in the hole. While the goal of Americans is to improve our lives and be better than what our parents and grandparents had, most of us have $20,000, $30,000, even $100,000 of debt before we even start. So I'll be about 30 years old before my net worth reaches zero. I can't settle down, I can't buy a house or a car, start a family, or even get a pet. And this cat here is to cheer you up, but if it lived in my house, it would probably starve. So, since I can't even afford to be a lonely old cat lady, perhaps I should focus on the alternative. I cook sometimes, I clean a little bit, and I come with a good old-fashioned dowry that's about tens of thousands of negative money. So, if you want to help dig me out of debt, I'm accepting marriage proposals at the end. So on a more serious note, this is why we should all be concerned. If we assume that everyone with this debt is making their standard payments, which are about $10 for every $1,000 every month. That's $10 billion a month that we could be putting into the economy instead of paying towards educations we already have. So, we could try to reduce the cost of education, because the more we make loans accessible, the more expensive universities become. And so it'll just keep going up and up unless we put a cap on it and put a stop to the rising cost. We also really need to educate our high schoolers. We need to tell them that there are alternatives to going to college. There are a lot of careers that you can do without a college degree. And we should also educate them about debt, because I was told when I was 17 years old that everybody has student debt. It's normal, it's not a problem, and you'll just pay it right off. And people need to know that it's not such a good idea. We also should focus on reducing interest rates. With high-end variable interest rate loans, you'll find that over the course of your 10-year loan, your education costs you more and more than it did when you first signed up. And it really piles on over time and makes it a lot harder to pay it off. And also, it's worth noting, the only way to get out of student debt is to die. And I cannot discharge my loans through bankruptcy. And if I join the military, sign my life away, they'll only give me up to $10,000. My roommate just finished a year with AmeriCorps doing conservation work, living on $500 a month, and she only gets $3,000 towards her student loans. So in closing, you should talk to your kids about drugs, teach them about safe sex, and don't ever let them take out excessive student loans for an overpriced education. Thank you.